Hello, my name is Michael Emery. This video accompanies the Just Your Luck app. In the program, I share in greater detail how this idea came to me while I was stranded on the side of a desolate highway. Semi-trucks were blowing by me at 80 miles an hour. I had no cell phone reception. I had a flat tire, no tire iron to change the tire, and nobody was stopping to help me. The first thing that crossed my mind, and the second thing, and the third thing, until I realized what was happening and then I stopped it, was this little voice saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" Then that little voice followed up with its own answer, saying that I must have bad luck. And I thought about that and noticed that it wasn't the third time that I'd been stranded on the side of the road with a flat tire. In fact, it wasn't even the second time that I'd been stranded on the side of the road with a flat tire. This was the very first time. So how could I have bad luck? Somehow, my mind had kicked into this routine, generalizing and distorting this experience and my preconceived notions about luck. Ironically, everything worked itself out in less than an hour. A friendly state cop stopped, and he made sure that I wasn't a terrorist or a drug runner, and then he offered to change the tire for me, and I was back on my way. So I made a few mental notes, and then I set out to learn about luck. And what I discovered is that there are two major views of luck. The first view is that luck is proscriptive. And this means that there's a supernatural force or a deity, something that is outside of oneself, that is affecting your world in a cause-effect relationship. And the second view is descriptive luck, and that just means labeling or categorizing an event as fortuitous or beneficial. Now, going back to the first view of luck, the ancient Romans personified luck in the embodiment of the goddess Fortuna. Hindus perceived the goddess Lakshmi as the bringer of good luck to her devotees. And ironically, the swastika symbol was a symbol of luck in Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism before its association was corrupted by the Nazi Party. Nicholas Rescher, the author of Luck, The Brilliant Randomness of Everyday Life, explains that luck has three components. First, it's beneficiary or maleficiary. Second, it is positive or negative from the viewpoint of the affected individual. And lastly, it is unforeseeable or unexpected. Luck is also perceived as a lack of control. There is luck with factors that cannot be changed, such as where and when you are born. There is luck that is haphazard, such as accidents and timing. And then there is luck that can only be perceived in hindsight. For a moment, I want you to consider the immensity of the universe. And in order to begin, why don't you just start with the immensity of the town or the city in which you currently live? Whether it's a population of just 50 people or 15 million people, the potential interactions are practically infinite. In the Milky Way galaxy alone, it is estimated that there are between 100 and 400 billion stars. Engulfing this, the known observable universe expands approximately 46.5 billion light years in any direction. In the field of chaos theory, the butterfly effect is a metaphor used to demonstrate the concept that small differences within a system can produce large variations over time. This affects my work, or my work affects this, if you get what I'm saying. The idea that something as small as those tiny butterfly wings flapping, creating a change in the atmosphere that might alter, cause, or prevent a tornado in a whole different part of the world is pretty phenomenal. My perspective on luck is that in the scope of the entirety of time, space, and mass in the universe, a person is taking chaos and uncertainty personally. The person who does this consciously or unconsciously is choosing an external locus of control. This means that the individual gives his or her power away to the events and circumstance outside of oneself. The individual who accepts that external locus of control will perceive little benefit in attempting to reframe an experience into something that is beneficial. And indirectly, this places that individual in a state of constant reaction to his or her universe. If instead a person develops an internal locus of control, leaving behind that old belief that something or someone outside of oneself is controlling you, then you have the opportunity to reframe any circumstances to your benefit. This could also be perceived as optimism by choice, and adapting this approach to life has been time-tested in some of the most horrendous of situations. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps of World War II, wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, the following: "What was really needed was a fundamental change in our attitude towards life. We had to learn ourselves, and furthermore, we had to teach the despairing men that it did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life and instead to think of ourselves as those who are being questioned by life, daily and hourly. Our answer must consist not in talk and meditation, but in right action and in right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the tasks which it constantly sets for each individual." In light of that reading, how will your life be different the next time you spill coffee on your shirt, get a flat tire, stub your toe, or miss an appointment, and the words of a Holocaust survivor flash through your mind? That life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answers to the questions that life poses. And in many ways, you might realize that you're just too close to the details in that specific situation. And as a result, you're generalizing, deleting, and distorting the experience. With this in mind, I'm going to leave you with an old Taoist parable. Long ago in China, there was an old farmer. With the same horse, this old farmer had plowed and worked on his land for many years, when one day his horse suddenly ran away. As news of this reached his neighbors, the old farmer was met with sympathy. Neighbors visited throughout the day, saying, "Wow, what bad luck to have your horse run away." The old farmer would think for a moment, then say softly, "Perhaps." The next morning, the old farmer awoke to find his horse had returned. With the horse, there were several wild horses who had apparently followed the horse home. Neighbors rejoiced, visiting the old farmer to express how happy they were for his sudden good fortune. The old farmer would think for a moment, then say softly, "Perhaps." Shortly after, the old farmer's son decided to try to ride one of the wild horses. Climbing on the horse's back, the boy knocked the animal hard with his leg, shouting for the horse to go. Startled and probably a little annoyed, the horse flung the boy off its back. The old farmer's son broke his leg in the fall. Again, the neighbors came to offer their sympathies for the misfortune. "What a horrible string of bad luck you're having." The old farmer would think for a moment, then say softly, "Perhaps." The very next day, military officials came into the village with orders to draft young men into military service. As they went from home to home, rounding up young men, they made their way to the farmer's house. Upon seeing the farmer's son with his broken leg, they decided to move on, leaving the boy alone. Once again, the neighbors came to share words of congratulations to the old farmer for the good fortune of having his son pass by. And again, the old farmer would think for a moment and then softly say, "Perhaps." We are always capable of gaining new perspectives, and rarely do we have enough information to make a decisive decision one way or another. The best that we can do is become comfortable with change and uncertainty, staying congruent with the values that we have chosen to pursue in our life. In the meantime, always being open to changing in the light of more information. I trust that you will find the Just Your Luck program empowering. Be amazing.